Shalom, shalom, shalom. It is now the 9th day of the 10th Hebrew month. It is Friday, the January the 10th, 2014. Preparation Day, Shabbat begins tonight, and this podcast is a teaching on who are the two witnesses. We know for a fact from Revelation 11 that the two witnesses must be two men. How do we know this? Because there are three Greek words for prophets. One Greek word applies only to male prophets. One Greek word applies only to female prophets, and then there's one Greek word that's used throughout the Renewed Covenant, the New Testament, that applies to both men and women prophets. But the Greek word used in Revelation 11 only refers to male prophets. So the two witnesses will be men. That's the first thing to realize. Now, what's very curious is that if you do study on how all the 12 disciples, the 12 apostles, died, you can find historical sources from the Fox's Book of Martyrs and from other early historical accounts written in the 1st and 2nd centuries that shows how all of the 12 disciples died except for one. We know Peter was probably crucified upside down in Rome. We know that Thomas was martyred in India. We know that James, it's recorded right in the Bible that he was killed, murdered by Herod's men in Jerusalem. All the disciples we can account for except for one, and that's Apostle John, the author of the book of Revelation. He was boiled in oil, and he survived, and then he was exiled to the island of Patmos, where he wrote the book of Revelation, and then he sort of vanishes from history. There's a scripture in Revelation that says that John, after he writes this book of Revelation, will yet be called before kings and princes and rulers to testify against him. And yet, according to history, after he wrote that book, he never did that. He never appeared on the world stage again. There's a very curious passage in John chapter 21. If you go right to the very end of John 21, Jesus predicts to Peter how Peter's going to die. And then Peter turns to Yahshua and says, well, what about John? What's going to happen to him? And Yahshua said, well, what's it to you if he survives or lives until I return? And then it even says in the following verses that this rumor started spreading amongst the early believers in the first century that John the Apostle would not die until Yahshua HaMashiach returns again. So I think it's very possible that John the Apostle is one of the two witnesses. In fact, I think it's more than possible. I think it's likely. There's one other person, one other individual in the Bible who suddenly vanishes without a trace. He just says he walks with Yah and then he's no more, and Yah takes him away. And that is Enoch. Enoch is just suddenly taken. So it appears that Enoch and Apostle John will be the two witnesses. It cannot be Elijah. Elijah was taken up in a chariot into the sky and then transported to another place on earth, and I proved that in message 3 of my messages to the 144,000. And then Elijah just later dies a normal death. Can't be Moses. Moses died a normal death. In fact, we see Elijah and Moses resurrected next to Yahshua on the Mount of Olives during the Transfiguration, during Sukkot in the Gospel. So we know that they both had died. But Enoch and John, they never died. And I think they're going to be the two witnesses. So we got Judas Iscariot being the son of perdition. We got Enoch and John being the two witnesses. 2014 to 2017 is going to be very, very interesting. This is Daniel John Lee with Torah Restoration Ministries. You can click on the hyperlink in the About tab right below this video, and that will allow you to go to an article I wrote about this. And you can also click on another hyperlink right below this video, and you can click on my website, spiritandtorah.com. Shalom.